In these perilous times, see from current events how biblical prophecy is coming to pass in front of our eyes. You're watching In the Last Days, the program that looks at Israel and the end times with teaching from a Hebraic perspective. With Martin and Nathalie Blackham, thank you to our friends and partners who make this program possible. Now, here's Martin and Nathalie.
Shalom, dear friend. Wonderful to be with you. And we carry on. We're speaking about Ish and Isha, which is the man and the women. And we're speaking about family matters. And I have my good friend, Rabbi Shmuel Bowman. And we're carry on from last week, what we were starting to speak. And here we go. We carry on.
Oh, it's good to be here. We were talking about families and looking back and saying before we get to the family, we need to look at the couple, the husband and the wife, the Ish and Isha. We talked about that last week, and we kind of left off with the story of Isaac and Rebekah when they first meet. And I think it gives us an important template for us to look at in terms of, well, what was their steps towards and really it was a wonderful and successful marriage. We're looking in the book of Genesis, and it's in chapter 24, right at the end of the chapter. This is where Rebekah is now being brought back to the land of Israel by the servant of Abraham, Eliezer, which, as we talked about, means
the help of God.
The help of God.
Yeah.
So he's not doing it on his own.
Yeah.
He had big help. He brings back Rebekah, and Isaac has gone into the field to prepare himself. It's so important when you're ready, or you think you're ready to enter into a relationship. First, you need to ask, am I ready? Am I actually ready? Because, right, the Bible says, God says, you're going to leave your home, your parents' home, where it's comfortable and nice, and you're going to be connected, glued, dabek, right, glued to your wife. And am I really ready to do that? That's going to happen. I need to be prepared. So he goes and he prepares himself in the field.
And he goes to prepare a new home. So it's like
he's got a lot of preparing to do. He's got a lot of work to do. And yes, it's very practical. So these are the four things that happen. Rebekah comes along and he meets her, and this is what he does. First, he shows her the tent. He shows her the house. This is the house. In other words, this isn't just small talk. We're not just shooting the breeze in our conversation. We have a home that we can build. We have a home that we can fill with a family. We have a home which can contain our dreams and turn them into reality. Number two, what's the second thing that he does? V'yikachet Rivka. He makes a commitment with her, and he says, this isn't a one-night stand. This isn't a short-term relationship. This is a long-term. This is serious. That's the second thing. I'm stating my intention.
So what is this verb?
Vayikach et Rivka, which literally means, and he took her, but that translation isn't exactly going to help us. The meaning of the idea is that he is saying, I am serious about this relationship. I'm serious about what's going on here. The third thing, v'tihilo le'isha, and he marries her. Now we have to understand, he didn't throw a $100,000 wedding at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, okay, or at the Ritz, okay. He didn't order flowers, okay. Maybe he did, but that's not what we're talking about when he married her. When he married her, he set forth a contract with her and said, this is about security. You don't need to worry about whether or not I'm going to be gone tomorrow. Okay? This is a marriage. There's a marriage contract involved here. Okay? And that's what I'm prepared to go into with you. Okay? Again, it's about stability, creating stability.
Mm-hmm. Do they do it together? Do they have the term of the contract? Do they do it together, or is it?
They have to be together when that contract is given, but he's giving her the contract. Okay. He is the active and she's the passive. Okay. And especially if you can imagine in the old days, where if he just dumped her, if he just left her, she's destitute. Okay? This is the way it was in the old days. He's saying, no, you will never be destitute. If for some reason this marriage should not work, okay, and so much has now been invested emotionally and financially and everything else and spiritually, then you will not be destitute. These are the terms of the agreement. It's very interesting that today in a Jewish wedding, so there's a contract.
Yeah, ketubah.
It's called the ketubah, which a lot of people think is the marriage contract. It's a divorce contract. Very romantic, right? You're standing there at the wedding. Well, my dear, this is in case it all falls apart. Okay? But it's funny, but it's serious, because what you're really doing is you're saying, I'm making a commitment here. Okay? I'm taking this very seriously. How seriously? So serious that if it should fall apart, okay, if it should end, then I respect you now and always. And here's an agreement showing that you will be okay. So he has an agreement with her. That's the marriage. And only after all these pieces are in place, the home, the commitment, the marriage, then it says ve'aveha, and then he loves her, which is very, very interesting, because it's totally contrary to what Hollywood would want us to believe of. They fell in love and married and lived happily ever after. I'm not saying that there isn't love at the beginning,
Sure.
but this indicates, since it's the fourth and last step,
It's built on something.
it's built on something and continues. The love continues to grow. Do I love my wife today after 21, 2 years, whatever it is, of marriage? Sorry, Leah. As I did when we first met? Of course. Is it the same love? It's a different love. 5 children later, okay? It's a different love. It's a love of, wow, we had a vision, we've turned it into reality. How? We had a mechanism in place. We defined our roles. She knows what she does, I know what I do, and our children know where they stand.
So they have security.
They have security. Dad does this, mom does that. Doesn't mean that what dad does is better. Doesn't mean what mom does is less important. We have our roles. Children need parameters. They need definitions. And we're living in a world today where those definitions become blurred and ultimately interchangeable. Okay? That cannot possibly lead to any form of security, sense of well-being in the home. And what I think Isaac and Rebecca are teaching us here, and it goes all the way back to the first proto-relationship of Adam and Eve, is you need to have definitions. Now, with that,
gives security.
Which gives security. Today, the family is under attack. Everything is fashion. And when morality becomes fashion, it's no longer morality. We talked before about the issue of homosexuality, and I want to be very, very clear that the Torah has nothing against individuals who are gay. Okay? However, the act itself is not considered something in the Torah which is a natural act. The people themselves should always feel included and welcomed, and they should be brought into our homes, into our circles. But under no circumstances should the act ever be condoned. And it has, at the simplest level, it has to do, again, with the blurring of the roles. When you have a situation where textbooks today legitimize same-sex couples as a natural family, then we begin to slide down that slippery slope to other types of relationships at some point where we could also accept them as being natural. The Bible is saying to us, no, there are parameters and definitions. And, you know, in the wisdom, in God's wisdom...
Sure, it's for our good.
It's for our good.
For
you know, it's so
good.
interesting that the Torah, the Bible, doesn't tell us things that are obvious. It doesn't tell us things that are obvious. It tells us things that, you know, it's like a good educator. It's, you know, I know what is natural and what you want to do, but let me tell you, it isn't so. The very fact that the Bible tells us about prohibited relationships means that we have it in our nature to do these things. And the Torah is saying to us, but that's not what's going to build a healthy family or a healthy society.
Limits. Yeah, sure.
And this is what's under attack today. So when we talk about these practical things, what we need to do is in our home life, is first of all, make sure that we have distinct definitions in terms of the husband and the wife, between the man and the woman, between the father and the mother. Very, very important to set that and to show the fact that it's not a helpmate, that one member of this relationship is less or greater than the other, but rather that there is a that there is a partnership going on here. And if anything, she is telling him, make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing in this world. And when the children see that, right off the bat, they have role models that they can connect with.
So practically, what will you say for a man? What is the more important things when he wants to get married? When you do some counseling,
Right.
do you have certain things that you will speak about to him?
Well, first thing is that, to think that you're going to somehow, that he's going to totally understand what she's about and she's going to totally understand what he's about could be a winless war, and end that struggle right now. Best to focus on who you are as a man and let her focus on what she is as a woman. So the man needs to think to himself before he gets into a relationship, before he gets into a serious relationship. Am I who I'm supposed to be? Am I creating a world, okay, where there's a place for myself to do God's will? Okay, am I really following through? Do I have my dreams and do I have a plan to execute them? Do I have my dreams and do I have a system in order to enact them? This is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm a builder. I'm B'Tselem Elokim. I'm in the image of God. I'm a creator. Okay? Now, what's interesting is that she's also a creator. She creates, in a sense, she's bringing forth life. But she's doing something very, very different. Okay? She's doing something very different. In a sense, in the Jewish home, the woman is looking after what's happening inside the house, inside the home. And I know that kind of stuff doesn't kind of like flow in 2014 in mainstream society.
It's what has been given. So
this is exactly it. The home is, in fact, the center of life. What's happening in the home is going to, from there, almost like in concentric circles, spill out into the neighborhood, into the town, into the country, and ultimately into the entire world. Okay? It all starts with what's happening in the home, not in the marketplace, not in the stock market, not in the offices. Okay? That is a reaction to what happens in the home. What happens in the home is going to, in a sense, create the entire mood and the pattern, the rhythm of everything that's happening in society. Couldn't be a more important place, and she's responsible for it. She's responsible to make sure that the home environment is a good environment, is a wholesome environment, is a constructive environment, is a place where you can take your dreams and turn them into reality as long as those dreams are in line with God's will. It's a powerful idea. She's ultimately responsible for the education of their children, which is a powerful, powerful idea. And what I mean by that is not that he, the husband, the father, is now excluded from that process. Absolutely not. But she's providing the curriculum. Now, we need to bring dad in because he needs to be the Rebbe. He needs to be the role model. He needs to be the leader and be able to say, okay, children, this is what we believe. This is how we live our lives. And this is the passion that we have to do the will of God. But he's following it within the curriculum that she's building. Very important. And from that is going to spill out what happens in the school system, what happens at the municipal level, at the national level, at the international level. And once we understand that, then that becomes very, very important. We have a situation where the home has become second rate. Yes. Who wants to stay at home? After all, it's more exciting to be out in the marketplace. It's more exciting to be out and about. It's to be out in the business world. That's what's celebrated. If you watch MSNBC or Bloomberg or anything like that, you never have a situation of a panel of financial experts sitting like in the kitchen. They're not sitting in the kitchen or the living room. They're sitting, there's computers. There's computers in the background. There's people running around. There's people on their cell phones. It's very active. It's very busy. Doesn't look like home, okay? But that's a fallacy. It's a total fallacy. The real action is happening inside the four walls of the home. And that's what she's responsible for.
Very true. I remember you speaking, maybe you can speak a bit about the letter P, because I think it's something very important.
Well, that
Just a
gives us
little.
that gives us the whole idea, the whole lesson about what the home is and what's going on in terms of what's spoken in the home. If you take a look at the letter Bet, for example, let's start with letter Bet. Letter Bet is the second letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and Bet and Bait, you can hear the similarity. Bait means home, house. Bet is the second letter. But look at the shape of the letter Bet. What does it have? It has exactly what you need in order to define a house.
Home.
It has a
Roof.
It has a roof. It has a wall.
Yeah.
It has a floor, and it has a door opening. Perfect. At the simplest letter, it's a home. Fantastic. Let's take a look at the letter Pe. The letter Pe and the letter Pe, you can hear the similarities. Mouth. Means mouth. And in fact, if you look at the letter Pe right now, you can almost see as if somebody is standing with a profile view. You can almost see like there's the nose and there's the tongue, and you can see the open mouth, right? But let's look a little closer at the part that's actually not written, at the white, at the invisible part inside the Pe. And what do we see?
The bite.
We see the bite. We see the Bet. Exactly. We see that letter Bet, that white letter Bet inside the Pe. The house, the home, inside the mouth, inside the speech, inside the way that you communicate. Very interesting. No accident whatsoever. That the way we speak comes from what happens in the home. That the way we communicate, that the way that we relate, at its core, surrounds the home. The home is what's going on, and it informs the way we communicate, which is that same way that we communicate where? Outside of our home. Back in that stock market, back in the office, back in the laboratory or the school. But it comes from the home. And she, the mother, is responsible for that. The father, what's he doing? He's getting out into the world. He's the one who actually gets out of the house, and he's taking with him the wisdom that is being created in the house, and he is sharing it into the world. He's bringing it out into the world. And when that happens, now we have this duality. We're covered on the inside, and we're covered on the outside. The woman is very much looking after what's happening at the insular level. And he's looking at what's happening in the external. And that partnership isn't to say that one is better or one is worse, one is higher, one is lower. But both are very, very necessary. And God has created man and woman to be masters over those two realms. He's out there in the world, creating a marketplace of fair weights and measures. He's out there in a world creating a justice system that truly is God's justice. He's out there in the world involved in creating systems to make things work at a national level, at a regional level. But make no mistake about it. At the end of the day, he comes home, and he's refueled by her Bina, that insight that drives the entire thing. When we're looking at examples of this, I think that there's a beautiful example, and it's worth looking at. There's something called tefillin. We've looked at it before. Phylacteries in English. It's these boxes that men wear. It's what, maybe we can flash a picture on the screen, but he's wearing it on his head. He's wrapping it on his arm, and it contains in it the words of Torah. And there's 4 parchments inside, and the 4 parchments have 2 themes. 2 of the parchments talk about the Exodus from Egypt, and 2 of the parchments talk about the love that God has for us. You could say they're both related. The themes are related, but they are distinct. One has to do with being chosen, being brought out of slavery so that we can fulfill a greater mission. And the other one has to do with this parent-child relationship that God has with us. Very powerful idea. It's sitting there as boxes. And the question is, why are the men wearing it and not the women? It's a very interesting idea. I mean, right? You'd think that everyone should be wearing it. And one reason that's given for this is that the women are already wearing it. They already have made space within their own person, both physically. They've made space, a cavity, where the next generation can come forth, but also spiritually. They've made sense. They've made space. And they've made space for this concept of God's holiness inside them. Men need to compensate because we don't physically have that cavity. We don't have that ability to grow anything in us that can be a next generation. And in a sense, spiritually, we need that as well. So we need to, in a sense, compensate for what women have naturally. These little spaces, these boxes, these entities, which house God's love for us and God's special message of chosenness for us that women already have. And it's so interesting because if you think about it, and here's the best part of all, I love this part. Do you know what that box is called that the men wear? It's called a bait. Now, isn't that interesting? That's called a house. The man lacking, in a sense, the fact that he is not in the house needs to compensate by placing these houses on him.
It's like we have it instinctively, and you have to work on it.
We have to,
Very
exactly.
interesting.
So again,
you see, we need to know all these things because man is really lost, and there is so many thoughts, so many ideas now in the world that fill our brain of sometimes not the right thing. Now we need to go back to all the things, which is like really, you know, the focus. I mean, not just the focus, but like the principal thing that we lost. We do this and this and this, but we are not. We don't know who we are.
We've lost touch.
I know.
Totally lost touch.
I know. And like I think sometimes even some homosexual, especially men, they have this maybe femininity that they know they should have, but they don't know. Do you understand what I mean?
It's misplaced.
Yeah.
It's misplaced. If they want to, if somebody wants to tap into, and we all have, we tap into that feminine side, which is fantastic, because another word for that feminine side is that creative side. It's so beautiful. And if a woman, by the way, wants to tap into the male side, well, let's call it something else, creating, building, so be it. That's absolutely fantastic. It doesn't mean, however, that we need to drop our identities, that we need to blur our roles, and that we need to somehow drop the fact that, you know, what God has gifted us with, whether you're born a man or a woman. And I think that that's where we have this problem, where society has this problem, where it legitimizes the blurring. And we need to be active, and we need to be vigilant in sharpening those roles. Where the blurring is taking place, let's sharpen those lines, make definite roles for the betterment and for the health of our families.
So it's really always man and woman who have to work together, because like, as you say, man is building outside, but he still needs to bring the bina of what he's learning at home to be able to make this human world, and not just like facts, as you said, and is like cold, and we know that it doesn't work.
If he fails to do that, all he will build is a house of cards, and they will fall.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Do you have something, like you see older people, older couple, what is the thing who is the most touching for you?
Older couples are like great libraries, full of wonderful wisdom, books, in a sense, that they have gathered. We talk about as an old person has gathered their years, has gathered their wisdom, and when they get to share it together, it's just the sweetest, and it's just the most richest and deepest of relationships. It is holy, it is sacred, it is sensual, it is passionate, it is beautiful. It is two people who have been connected, glued to each other for an entire life, and are now at a point and have raised a family and have contributed to the world and have built a beautiful home, and they, with God's help, are able to spend their days enjoying and reaping the benefits.
It's interesting that you said that. I had also my grandparents, and when they were having a festivity for them, and after 40 years of marriage, and we could see all the grandchildren, and for us it was like, can you believe this one couple there and all these people coming from them?
Amazing.
And this was the thing that really touched, you know, very touching. Last word about your parents. What did you learn with them? What did they bring, you know?
My parents taught me to live passionately. My parents taught me that to be complacent was, in a sense, a form of death, and that we're all about life. Not to wait for opportunities to happen, but to create opportunities. Not to sit by And if a situation should ever arise then, but rather place yourself in that situation and deal with it. And so I grew up in a home of great passion, of great activism, of great love. And it was, for them, they're my mentors. They continue to be my mentors, and I love them dearly. And I've tried to pass that message on to my children as well.
Mm-hmm.
Live passionately.
Thank you. This is wonderful. So we're very happy to give you, more of what is a family. And I'm sure this year we'll carry on speaking about these things. And don't forget also, we do YouTubes of all the programs, so you can look at them again. You can speak to your friends and say you can look at them. You can review them, because sometimes even me, I listen to them again. It's like, this was good. Yes, I forgot about it, and it's very interesting. And we do also update weekly, so you can ask for that. You go on our website, and I've done, funny enough, something also about the family these last few weeks, because I find that it's something so important. And sometimes we give news from Israel. We had some amazing snow, so we show some amazing pictures of the snow, which is the storm of the century. And you can keep in touch with us. You can email us. Tell us if you appreciate the programs, because it's always also an encouragement for us. And we are leaving you now. I hope that you enjoy this program. We really appreciate your support also, because it's with your support that we carry on to do this program. And now, from Rabbi Shmuel and from me, bye-bye from now. And don't forget, we are living in the last days.
You've been watching In the Last Days, a TV program with Martin and Nathalie Blackham, the program that looks at Israel and the end times with teaching from a Hebraic perspective. If you would like to financially support the program or find out about conferences, meetings, or ministry products, then please contact us with the details on your screen. Visit our easy-to-use website at www.inthelastdays.com and register for our free e-newsletter. Get the latest news from Israel, product information, online video teaching, or watch today's TV program at a time that's convenient to you. Thank you again, friends and partners, for making this program possible.
See you same time, same station for the next program from In the Last Days.
Am I actually ready? Because, right, the Bible says, God says, you're going to leave your home, your parents' home, where it's comfortable and nice, and you're going to be connected, glued, dabek, right, glued to your wife. And am I really ready to do that? That's going to happen. I need to be prepared. So he goes and he prepares himself in the field.
And he goes to prepare a new home. So it's like,
he's got a lot of preparing to do. He's got a lot of work to do. And yes, it's very practical. So these are the four things that happen. Rebecca comes along and he meets her, and this is what he does. First, he shows her the tent. He shows her the house. This is the house. In other words, this isn't just small talk. We're not just shooting the breeze in our conversation. We have a home that we can build. We have a home that we can fill with a family. We have a home which can contain our dreams and turn them into reality. Number two, what's the second thing that he does? V'yikachet Rivka. He makes a commitment with her, and he says, this isn't a one-night stand. This isn't a short-term relationship. This is a long-term. This is serious. That's the second thing. I'm stating my intention.
So what is this verb?
Vayikach et Rivka, which literally means, and he took her, but that translation isn't exactly going to help us. The meaning of the idea is that he is saying, I am serious about this relationship. I'm serious about what's going on here. The third thing, v'tihilo le'isha, and he marries her. Now we have to understand, he didn't throw a $100,000 wedding at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, okay? Everything is fashion. And when morality becomes fashion, it's no longer morality. We talked before about the issue of homosexuality, and I want to be very, very clear that the Torah has nothing against individuals who are gay. Okay? However, the act itself is not considered something in the Torah which is a natural act. The people themselves should always feel included and welcomed, and they should be brought into our homes, into our circles. But under no circumstances should the act ever be condoned. And it has, at the simplest level, it has to do again with the blurring of the roles. When you have a situation where textbooks today legitimize same-sex couples as a natural family, then we begin to slide down that slippery slope to other types of relationships at some point where we could also accept them as being natural. The Bible is saying to us, no, there are parameters and definitions. And, you know, in the wisdom, in God's wisdom...
Sure, it's for our good.
It's for our good.
It's for
You know,
our
it's so
good.
interesting that the Torah, the Bible, doesn't tell us things that are obvious. It doesn't tell us things that are obvious. It tells us things that, you know, it's like a good educator. It's, you know, I know what is natural and what you want to do, but let me tell you, it isn't so. The very fact that the Bible tells us about prohibited relationships means that we have it in our nature to do these things. And the Torah is saying to us, but that's not what's going to build a healthy family or a healthy society.
Limits. Yeah, sure.
And this is what's under attack today. So when we talk about these practical things, what we need to do is in our home life, is first of all, make sure that we do now and always. And here's an agreement showing that you will be okay. So he has an agreement with her. That's the marriage. And only after all these pieces are in place, the home, the commitment, the marriage, then it says ve'aveha, and then he loves her, which is very, very interesting because it's totally contrary to what Hollywood would want us to believe of. They fell in love and married and lived happily ever after. I'm not saying that there isn't love at the beginning,
Sure.
but this indicates, since it's the fourth and last step,
It's built on something.
it's built on something and continues. The love continues to grow. Do I love my wife today after 21, 2 years, whatever it is, of marriage? Sorry, Leah. As I did when we first met? Of course. Is it the same love? It's a different love. 5 children later, okay? It's a different love. It's a love of, wow, we had a vision, we've turned it into reality. How? We had a mechanism in place. We defined our roles. She knows what she does, I know what I do, and our children know where they stand.
So they have security.
They have security. Dad does this, mom does that. Doesn't mean that what dad does is better. Doesn't mean what mom does is less important. We have our roles. Children need parameters. They need definitions. And we're living in a world today where those definitions become blurred and ultimately interchangeable. Okay? That cannot possibly lead to any form of security, sense of well-being in the home. And what I think Isaac and Rebecca are teaching us here, and it goes all the way back to the first proto-relationship of Adam and Eve, is you need to have definitions. Now, with that,
gives security.
Which gives security. Today, the family is under attack.
In these perilous times, see from current events how biblical prophecy is coming to pass in front of our eyes. You're watching In the Last Days, the program that looks at Israel and the end times with teaching from a Hebraic perspective. With Martin and Nathalie Blackham, thank you to our friends and partners who make this program possible. Now, here's Martin and Nathalie.
Shalom, dear friend. Wonderful to be with you. And we carry on. We're speaking about Ish and Isha, which is the man and the women. And we're speaking about family matters. And I have my good friend, Rabbi Shmuel Bowman. And we're carry on from last week, what we were starting to speak. And here we go. We carry on.
Oh, it's good to be here. We were talking about families and looking back and saying before we get to the family, we need to look at the couple, the husband and the wife, the Ish and Isha. We talked about that last week, and we kind of left off with the story of Isaac and Rebecca when they first meet. And I think it gives us an important template for us to look at in terms of, well, what was their steps towards and really it was a wonderful and successful marriage. We're looking in the book of Genesis, and it's in chapter 24, right at the end of the chapter. This is where Rebekah is now being brought back to the land of Israel by the servant of Abraham, Eliezer, which, as we talked about, means
the help of God.
the help of God.
Yeah.
So he's not doing it on his own.
Yeah.
he had big help. He brings back Rebekah, and Isaac has gone into the field to prepare himself. It's so important when you're ready, or you think you're ready to enter into a relationship. First, you need to ask, am I ready? Or at the Ritz, okay? He didn't like order flowers, okay? Maybe he did, but that's not what we're talking about when he married her. When he married her, he set forth a contract with her and said, this is about security. You don't need to worry about whether or not I'm going to be gone tomorrow, okay? This is a marriage. There's a marriage contract involved here, okay? And that's what I'm prepared to go into with you, okay? Again, it's about stability, creating stability.
Mm-hmm. Do they do it together? Do they have the term of the contract? Do they do it together, or is it?
They have to be together when that contract is given, but he's giving her the contract. Okay. He is the active and she's the passive. Mm-hmm. And especially if you can imagine in the old days, where if she, if he just dumped her, if he just left her, she's destitute. Okay? This is the way it was in the old days. He's saying, no, you will never be destitute. If for some reason this marriage should not work, okay, and so much has now been invested emotionally and financially and everything else and spiritually, then you will not be destitute. These are the terms of the agreement. It's very interesting that today in a Jewish wedding, so there's a contract. It's called the ketubah, which a lot of people think is the marriage contract. It's a divorce contract. Very romantic, right? You're standing there at the wedding. Well, my dear, this is in case it all falls apart. Okay? But it's funny, but it's serious, because what you're really doing is you're saying, I'm making a commitment here. Okay? I'm taking this very seriously. How seriously? So serious that if it should fall apart, okay, if it should end, then I respect you.